ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaskar, my dear friends. I am going to give you a video on Ram Nam Harisi Updesa Truvahal. Let there be peace and love among all beings of the universe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Muruganar composed most of Sri Ramana Sannidhi Murai, a work that praises Bhagwan in a series of long poems in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Updesa Trivahal, the ninth poem of this sequence, is a single continuous verse of just under 200 lines in which Muruganar includes both the story of how he came to Bhagwan and many key teachings that Bhagwan gave him. Ahvahal is the Tamil metrical form in which the poem was written, so the title can be translated as the Holy Ahval of Teachings. The translation and the annotations are the work of Robert Butler, T.V. Venkata Subramanian and David Godman. The line numbers of the original poem appear above the translation and editorial comments are in italics. 1 to 6. Nowhere upon this earth, composed of continents that the oceans surround, was there anyone possessed of such a dark and deadly understanding as mine. I took the first prize, not even knowing my real self. My wicked mind was stuffed full of habits baser than those of an ignorant beast, and thus I remained. 7 to 15. A Mahatma took birth to nurture and cultivate the dignity of man. He has earned deep respect by his adherence to the truth and brings joy to all humanity. It is as if divine love and manifested in human form, he lends strength equally to the motherland in its search for freedom and to the individual in his quest for liberation. Such is his greatness. Those who hear the fair name of Gandhi turn in his direction in transports of great joy, prostrate and worship him. 16 to 32. Under the leadership of this great and worthy soul, many good people suffered indescribable agony for the sake of the motherland. Yet, though I was aware of this in my foolishness, I did not renounce all my comforts and volunteer to help their cause. I did not realize that amongst all the many spiritual disciplines that are worthy of practice, truthfulness is that which most benefits the soul. I spoke contrary to the thoughts I harbored within my mind and thus frittered away my ordained life to no good end. I showed my love solely with words but never knew the joy of offering love through my deeds. I hoarded sufferings as if it were wealth, piling it up in the boat, that is the body. Then, as I lay drifting on the sorrowful ocean of bitter birth, you drew me to you and bound me to your golden feet with the rope of divine grace, whose nature is to bestow itself entirely without desire or intention. You watched over me, banishing my slumbers in the differentiated world brought about by Maya. As these introductory lines indicate, prior to coming to Bhagwan, Muruganar was an ardent follower of Mahatma Gandhi. In the first poem that Muruganar presented to Bhagwan, composed on his way to Ramanasramam in 1923, he even asked why Bhagwan was not working for the country in the way that Gandhi was. Though his respect for Gandhi continued, once Muruganar came to Bhagwan, he took a vow that he would only write about Bhagwan and his teachings. Line number 33 to 42. However many despicable and disgraceful things I did, you tolerated and forgave them all, consoling me with your love. Though my conduct was baser than that of a dog, you did not reject me with contempt, but like an attentive mother you showed me love, and like a father you counseled me with terse and pithy teachings. Alas, it is possible for a fool such as I to grasp in his mind and accurately convey in words those teachings one who, lacking discrimination, regards as permanent those things that are impermanent, and thus wanders in dread like a ghost amongst them. Line 43 to 48. My Lord, cur that I was, none of my entreaties went in vain, as you composed at my request many verses in various meters according to classical rules with such ease as if you were playing a game. Moreover, to fulfill my wish, you also composed a song called Atma Vidya Kirtanam, the song of self-knowledge. Praise be to you. Line 49 to 56. The company of rishis in the Dharuka forest had become blind like owls in the daylight in the presence of the non-dual sun of true knowledge. With their inner eye of grace obscured, they followed the path shown by the dark ego, declaring that there was no God other than karma. It was then that you appeared before them, destroyed their arrogance, and taught them how to know reality. These instructions that you gave them then, you later reiterated to us, your devotees, in the form of a series of explanatory verses. Upadesa Undiyar, praise be to you. Line 57 to 62. Not stopping at that, when I further asked you, please tell me how the bondage of birth and death may be severed for me, your devotee, you gave to us the divine work Ulladu Narpadu that clearly reveals the means by which the bond of the false ego may be severed and reality shine as the self. Line 63 to 66. Desire itself is birth and desire extinction is liberation, where bliss supreme surges ever unabated. Praise be to you who, as my Guru, came to rule my entire clan, and from whose mouth these words of grace flowered. This is an idea that can be traced back to verse 361 of the Tirukural, a work that Muruganar was particularly fond of. Desire, they say, is the seed that engenders increasing birth to all jivas at all times. Muruganar himself expanded on this idea in lines 242 to 243 of Ramana Puranam, the first poem of Sri Ramana Sannidhimrai. Desire became the seed that engenders the never-ending succession of birth, bringing into existence the great and evil tree that is illusion of birth and death. Line 67 to 68. Praise be to you who declared, cling firmly to that which clings to nothing, so that from attachment to that ensues. This particular Upadesha from Bhagavan was recorded in a more expanded form in Padamlai, page 78. Line 123. Hold on to the path of holding on to the one who has no attachments. By holding on to this path of holding on, you rid yourself of those attachments that hold you to the world. Line 124. By holding tightly to the one who has no attachments, your attachment to the non-self will go away. When that attachment to the non-self has gone, holding on right tightly to the one who has no attachments will also cease, and all attachments will come to an end. Line 69 to 74. Praise be to you who merged me into consciousness expanse with these golden words. Apart from you there is no world. Those codependent entities, God and Jiva, both are not. Accordingly, you are yourself the individual reality. Praise be to you who stated the world, the Jiva and God, whilst apparently existing, are simply thought forms, nothing more. Muruganar revised this poem after its first publication, and the current version in the Tamil edition of Sri Ramana Sannidhimrai is not the final draft. In Sri Ramana Jnana Bodham, Volume 9, page 373, Muruganar wrote that lines 75 to 98 of the published work should be replaced by the following lines. Since Muruganar asked that they be inserted at this point, we have numbered them 75A to 101A to distinguish them from the lines that are printed in Sri Ramana Sannidhimrai. 75A to 76A, the place where Ullal, thought, arises and subsides, is Ullam, the heart. Thus you gave out the meaning of Ullam. Praise be to you. These two lines and the lines that follow are an expansion on and an explanation of the first invocatory verse of Ulladu Narpadu. Since this verse is an extensive play on the Tamil syllable Ull, which is the root form of a verb meaning to be, the original Tamil words that contain this syllable have been retained. This is what Professor K. Swaminathan wrote about this innovatory verse. The first stanza, woven out of pure Tamil words, is an emphatic assertion of the oneness of being, awareness and the heart. It dwells lovingly on the Tamil root ul, common to being, thinking, heart and inner space, all associated with individual oneness and wholeness. The verb ul, to be, which admits of no past or future tense, is repeated 8 times. The word ullam, the heart, thrice, ullu, to think, thrice, and unarvu, feeling, twice. Thus, the Venba as a whole, through sound suggestion and explicit statement, pulls the mind inward to the very heart of being, awareness. Ramana Maharshi K. Swaminathan, page 91, 77A to 78A. You declared since Ulladu reality exists in Ullam, the heart, Ulladu reality itself may be said to be Ullam, the heart. Praise be to you. Ulladu, translated here as a reality, is a combination of the syllable Ulla, meaning is, and Adu, meaning that. A more liberal translation would therefore be that which is Ulladu Narpadu. Narpadu means 40. Could therefore be literally translated as 40 on that which is 79A to 80A. You also declared as the experience Nam Ullam, we are, exist there, it can be termed Ullam, the heart. In addition to meaning the heart, Ullam is also the first person plural form of the verb to be. We are. Murugnar has commented on this combination of meanings in an explanatory note he wrote on verses 966 of Guru Vachka Koai. The one reality, Atma Swarupa, exists and shines in the heart, one without a second. Appearing as if it is many, it shines as I in every individual being, who seem to be many because of upadhis, limiting ideas and associations. Therefore, the plural term ullam, meaning we are, is appropriate because the heart is the place for the existing and shining of the Atma Swarupa. In Tamil, the heart is known as Ullam. The word Ullam here gives both meanings simultaneously. Padamlai, page 31. Though in modern Tamil, the am suffix in Ullam indicates the first person plural, we are. In older Tamil, Ullam could also be taken to be the singular form am or I am. Thus, Ullam serendipitously can be taken to be both I am and the heart. Sadhu Om made this connection in his comment on verse 712 of Guru Vachka Koai. Since the Tamil word Ullam, which means heart, also means am, the shining of the reality I, the reality is called by the name Ullam. Sadhu Om's translation was first published in September 2005. 81A to 82A. You declared Ulla Porul, that which exists, which gets the name Ullam, is not a thought form. Praise be to you. Here is a transliteration of the first benedictory verse split into its components words, followed by an English translation. The Ul syllables have been highlighted in bold. Ulladu, Alladu, Ulla, Unru, Ullad. Anyway, English translation. Could there be a being, consciousness existing apart from that which eternally is? Since that reality exists in the heart free of thought, who could meditate upon that reality called the heart? Know that to remain within the heart as it is truly to meditate upon the heart. The ul sounds listed here are pronounced with the tongue bent back with the underside of its tip touching the top of the palate, not the back of the teeth. This gives the sound a strong nasal component. When the verse is chanted, the repeated nasal ul sounds punctuate the verse as a leitmotif, repeatedly emphasizing its principal theme that being is both the fundamental nature of the self and the means by which it can be experienced. With its elegant play on the syllable ul and its strict metrical form, the first innovatory verse is now widely regarded as being a literary tour de force. The following appreciative comments recorded by Kunjo Swami come from a distinguished Tamil scholar. Once while going on a pilgrimage, I, Kunju Swami, visited various mutts before ending up at Perayur Santhalinga Mutt. At the time, Veera Subhaya Swamigal was resting there because he was not well. When I went and had his darshan, he made kind inquiries about the welfare of Sri Bhagwan and the ashram in general. He also looked into the notebook I had with me, seeing in it the verse of Ulladu Narpadu written beautifully by Sri Bhagwan himself. He asked me to read them out to him. He appreciated the first benedictory verse so much he asked me to read it 3 times. After the third reading, he remarked, "This is a very profound verse. Not only that, all the elegant features of prosody are in it. Until now, I was under the impression that your Swami was an adept only in keeping still, but now I discovered that he is also a superb writer of fine poetry. The Venba is itself a difficult meter that few poets dare attempt. Bhagwan has composed all 42 verses in this meter and used them to convey the most abstruse philosophical ideas. Corrowing them all, though, is this first innovatory verse, the power of the presence. 83a to 92a. You declared consciousness of reality and consciousness of the things around us do not exist apart from that reality. Praise be to you. Therefore, the place where everything exists is the heart. This you declared, praise be to you. You declared, since those who have truly seen see nothing other than their own self, thinking of something other than the self is inconsistent with that state. Praise be to you. You declared, unless one reaches throne of the heart, it is impossible to see the brilliant light of reality. Praise be to you. You declared, if one drives within and reaches the place of its arising thought, which is of the nature of the individual self, will cease to be. Praise be to you. 93 to 101a. Therefore, individual selves who have no other form than thought can only imagine with the false mind and the reality that is free from thought forms, but they cannot think of it as it really is. Just as reality dwells within the heart free from thought forms, when the individual self dwells in the same way within the heart free from thought forms, that is meditation on reality. Thus did you explain it to us. Praise be to you. The next section comes from Sri Ramana Jnana Bodham, volume 9, page 306. Murugana wrote these lines, which we have numbered insert 1 to 16 after the original poem had been published in Sri Ramana Sannidhi Murai. He left a note in his papers that stated that should be included at this point in the poem. While the preceding section records an explanation of the teachings expounded in the invocatory verse of Ulladu Narpadu. These new lines take up the subject matter of the second invocatory verse. The verse itself says, "Those people who have a deep fear of death will, for their protection, take refuge at the holy feet of Lord Shiva. He who is without both birth and death, in thus taking refuge in him, they suffered their own death. For them in this deathless state will the thought of death remain." Insert 1 to 16. Only those whose minds are extremely shaken by the fear of death are fit to undertake the path of crossing the ocean of samsara. They are the ripe and competent persons. Out of love you declared this to me, my father. Those who cling as their supreme refuge to the feet, girt with warriors' anklets of the Lord who is beyond birth and death, who chastised even the god of death for the sake of his devotee, Markandeya will, as the fruit of that clinging, be brought under his power. Their inner attachment, consisting of the ego, will be destroyed along with all the other attachments which depends on the ego. The seed of the ego will not be able to sprout within them as before. They will become absorbed in the heart and will abide as the truth of their own self. It is inconsistent for the thought of death to arise in those whose ego is dead. Thus did you declare, praise be to you. When Markandeya's father was childless, he prayed to Shiva to give him a son. Shiva appeared before him and offered him the choice of having either a dull-witted boy who would live a full span of life, or an intelligent, devoted son who would not survive past the age of 16. The father chose to have the intelligent, devoted son. When Markandeya was 16, Yama, the god of death, came to collect him and attempted to catch him by throwing a rope around him. The rope bound Markandeya to the lingam he was worshipping at the time. Shiva, who took this to be a personal insult, appeared and killed Yama by kicking him. However, Shiva later relented and brought Yama back to life. In order to keep Markandeya alive without allowing the terms of the original boon to lapse, Shiva ordained that he would remain as a 16-year-old for the rest of his life. The teachings that Mrugana recorded in insert 1 to 16 are very similar to an explanation of the second benedictory verse that Bhagwan gave to David McLever. Bhagwan, the second stanza, the second invocatory verse of Ulladu Narpadu is in praise of God with attributes. In the foregoing, the first benedictory verse to be as the oneself is mentioned, in the present one surrender to the Lord of all. Furthermore, the second indicates 1. the fit reader to the subject matter, 3rd. the relationship, 4th. the fruit. The fit reader is the one who is competent for it. Competence consists in non-attachment to the world and desire to be liberated. All know that they must die at some time or other, but they do not think deeply about the matter. All have a fear of death. Such fear is momentary. Why fear death? Because of the I am the body idea. All are fully aware of the death of the body and its cremation, that the body is lost in death is well known. Owing to the I am the body notion, death is feared as being the loss of oneself. Birth and death pertain to the body only, but they are superimposed on the self, giving rise to the delusion that birth and death relate to the self. In the effort to overcome birth and death, man looks up to the Supreme Being to save him. Thus are both faith and devotion to the Lord. How to worship Him? The creature is powerless and Creator is all powerful. How to approach Him? To entrust oneself to His care is the only thing that left for Him. Total surrender is the only way. Therefore, he surrendered himself to God. Surrender consists in giving up oneself and one's possessions to the Lord of mercy. Then what is left over for the man? Nothing, neither himself nor his possessions. The body liable to be born and die, having been made over to the Lord, the man need no longer worry about it. Then birth and death cannot strike terror. The cause of fear was the body. It is no longer his. Why should he fear now? Or where is the identity of the individual to be frightened? Thus the self is realized and bliss results. This is then the subject matter of the verse. Freedom from misery and gain of happiness. This is the highest good to be gained. Surrender is synonymous with bliss itself. This is the relationship. The remaining lines come from the original published version of Upadesa Trivahal. Fruit is to reflect on the subject matter and gain knowledge which is ever present here and now. The stanza ends with the immortal ones. Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, talk number 567. The remaining lines come from the original published version of Upadesa Trivahal. Maya is only the mind persisting vigorously in the form of thoughts. The distraction of the mind is the attainment of jnana. Thus did you declare to me, mean and pitiable as I was, giving me comfort and clear understanding. Praise be to you. You taught to inquire what the mind is. With the mind is the means to destroy the mind. Praise be to you. You declared, instead of directly realizing the self that lies within the five bodily seats, to search to the very end of the many scriptures, which only give good advice, is pointless and a waste. Praise be to you. This is probably a reference to an Upadesa Bhagwan gave in Who Am I? Question. Is it any use reading books for those who long for release? Bhagwan. All the texts say that in order to attain release, one should render the mind quiescent. Therefore, their concluding teaching is that the mind should be rendered quiescent. Once this has been understood, there is no need for endless reading. In order to quieten the mind, one has only to inquire within oneself what one's self is. How could this search be done in books? One should know one's self with one's own eye of wisdom. The self is within the five seats, but books are outside them. Since the self has to be inquired into by discarding the five seats, it is futile to search for it in books. There will come a time when one will have to forget all that one has learned. Who am I? Question and answer 23. Line 109 to 114. Bondage is merely the thought of the pairs of opposites. You assured me, impressing it upon my mind. Praise be to you. Father, you bade me, worthless as I was, to utter with a collected mind the words Shiva, Shiva, praise me to you, adding, if you examine to whom those thoughts belong, bondage will cease. Praise be to you. Though Bhagwan rarely gave out mantras, when he did, he generally recommended Shiva. Shiva Muruganar himself was given this mantra by Bhagwan, as were several other devotees, including Annamalai Swami, the brother of Rangam, who was one of Bhagwan's childhood friends, and an unknown Harijan. Page 1. Line number 115 to 118. You declared, if you investigate who is he that is in bondage, it will be found that there is no one in bondage. Thus bondage is not, and consequently liberation also is not. Praise be to you. The source of these 4 lines is probably Ulladu Narpadu, verse 39. Only so long as one thinks like a madman, I am a bound one, will thoughts of bondage and liberation remain. But seeing oneself who is this bound one, the eternally liberated and ever attained self alone will exist. When the thought of bondage cannot remain, can the thought of liberation still remain? Lines 119 to 122. Realization of the ever-present self is the greatest attainment. Siddhi, you clearly told me, praise be to you. That is the true attainment, that is liberation, and that is jnana. You declared, praise be to you. This is a summary of some of the ideas that are contained in Ulladu Narpadu, verse 35. It should be remembered that the teachings contained in Ulladu Narpadu were originally given to Muruganar generally in response to specific topics suggested by Muruganar himself. To know and to be with the mind subsided, the reality which is ever attained is the true Siddhi. All other Siddhis are Siddhis that are acquired in a dream when one wakes up from the sleep. Will they be real? Will they who by abiding in the true state are rid of the false state be deluded by Siddhis? Know and be you the reality. Ulladu Narpadu Kalivenba. Sadhu Om, The Mountain Path, 1981, page 222. Line 123 to 134. You declared, as there is nothing whatsoever to cause fear in the self, it is foolish to get frightened. Praise be to you. Those who have known this state will subside in the self and will not become embroiled in and perplexed by this impermanent world. Thus did you explain the state of Jivan Mukti and how it connects with the body. Praise be to you. Ignorant as I was, this did I clearly grasp. Praise be to you. You declared, when anger arises, vent your anger upon the anger itself, for it is your enemy, and destroy it. Praise be to you. Do not associate with others simply because they praise you. Rather value their abuse. Praise be to you. You declared, value the very ones who vilify you as though they were your dearest friends. Praise be to you. Bhagwan expounded on some of these ideas when he spoke to a visitor. Yesterday, a newly arrived Andhra youth told Bhagwan about the vagaries of his senses, to which Bhagwan said, all that is due to the mind, set it right. That is all right, Swami, but however much I try to reduce this anger, it comes on and again. What shall I do? Said the poor boy. Oh, is that so? Then get angry with that anger, it will be all right, said Bhagwan. All the people in the hall burst out laughing. A person who gets angry with everything in the world, if only he introspects and inquires why he does not get angry with his anger itself, will he really not overcome all anger? 2 or 3 years back, a devotee who could freely approach Bhagwan came and told him 5 or 6 times that somebody had been abusing him. Bhagwan listened but said nothing, as there was no response from Bhagwan in spite of repeated and varied complaints, and in a number of ways. This devotee could not contain himself any longer and so said, when I am abused so much unnecessarily, I also get angry. However much I try to restrain my anger, I am not being able to do so. What shall I do? Bhagwan laughingly said, oh, what should you do? You to join him and abuse yourself, then it will be all right. All laughed. That devotee, unable to understand anything, said, that is very good. Should I abuse myself? You, yes indeed. What they are abusing is your body, is not it? What greater enemy is there than this body, which is the abode of anger and similar feelings? It is necessary that we ourselves should hate it. Instead of that, when we are unguarded, if anybody abuses us, we should know that they are waking us up. We should realize at least then and join them in abusing the body and crying it down. What is the use of counter abuse? Those who abuse us that way should be looked upon as our friends. It is good for us to be among such people. If you are among people who praise you, you get deceived, said Bhagwan. Letters from Sri Ramanashram, 26th January 1946, line number 135 to 136. The rights you have, others also have. The rights others do not have, you do not have either. Muruganar also recorded this particular teaching in Guru Vachkaya Koya, verse 817. If others have some right, then only should one avail oneself of that right. If some right is denied to others, it would be wrong for one to avail oneself of it. Line number 137 to 140. Praise be to you, Lord of the Vedas, who declared on many occasions the heart where the I thought does not arise is the self, the undivided supreme reality, thus clearly revealing the nature of the middle state. The middle state is the one experienced between the waking and sleeping state. This is Bhagwan's description of it. Bhagwan. The ego in its purity is experienced in the intervals between two states or between two thoughts. The ego is like the worm which leaves hold only after it catches another. Its true nature is known when it is out of contact with objects or thoughts. You should realize the interval as the abiding, unchanging reality, your true being, through the conviction gained by the study of the three states, Jagrat, waking, Swapna, dreaming, and Susupti, sleep. Mercy Gospel, page 2526, lines 141-154. Those who have seen their own self do not see others. Those who see others do not see their own self. Thus did you fully explain the glorious state of Mona, glorious one, you who wear a warrior's noble anklets. Banish your harmful anxieties by entrusting anything to the all-powerful Lord. You declare, praise be to you. You declare, those who understand the true meaning of the scriptures will describe the world of the senses and the beings within it as real when viewed from the standpoint of cause, and unreal when viewed from the standpoint of effect. There is really no contradiction here. Both these views made by those of mature understanding are consistent with each other. Praise be to you. You declared, as the mind in following other of the views does not become externalized but abides as the self, the end result is also the same. Praise be to you. Cause in these lines refer to the unmanifest self and affect the world of names and forms. The world is real when it is known to be self alone, and unreal when it is merely perceived as separate objects. Muruganar made the same point in verse 19 and 20 of Guru Vachkaya Koya. 19. Since the cause itself, reality appears as the fact of the world, and because consciousness, the cause of this vast world described by the Shastras as being merely named and formed, is a truth as obvious as the nelly fruity on one's palm, it is proper to term this great world real. Nelly is the Tamil name for a small green fruit that physically resembles a gooseberry. It is known elsewhere in India as amla. In many parts of India, people say it's as obvious as the amla on one's palm when they mean that something is clear, easily perceived, and irrefutable. In Atam Vidya, Bhagwan wrote, even for the most infirm, so real is the self that compared with it in the amla in one's hand appear as a mere illusion. Collected Works, page 132. 20. The words that are described as being either 3 or 14 are real when seen from the point of view of the primal cause, the Brahma, because they have unceasing existence as their real nature. However, when attention is paid only to the names and forms, the effect, even the undecaying cause, the plenitude, will appear to be non-existence, a void. Lines 155 to 164, demonstrating that freedom from desire is the virtuous path. You draw away all my evil desires, praise be to you. At the mere thought of you, you entered my heart, becoming nectar for my mind, praise be to you. You revealed that the embryonal essence of all learning is to know the state of the self, the enduring substratum of all the worlds that appear as an illusion before the man of beings, and the nature of whose phenomenon cannot be ascertained even by the greatest mind, praise be to you. Lines 165 to 176, glory to the teacher who confers the true attainment of jnana by destroying the infatuation that consists in the forgetting of the self. Glory to you who revealed clearly the true attainment as my own self, the individual light. Glory to you who appeared first to God, then as Guru in the middle stage, and who finally dwelt as myself. Glory to you who dwelt as myself, the ocean of bliss that is worth of my devotion. Glory to you, the teacher who in an excess of love took pity on me, worthless I was, and explained to me in words the nature of the true reality, a teaching which you conveyed to the mature ones through the lofty state of Mona. Lines 177 to 186, but did it end with the verbal teaching? No, you also bestowed your grace upon me, enabling me to abide in that state, praise be to you. You dragged me into the heart so that I expired in the Shiva ocean of true jnana, praise be to you. As I lie dying in that ocean, what fitting recompense can I offer to you? Your holy feet, praise be to you. May you gladly accept as that recompense the merging of my unruly mind with your ankled feet, praise be to you. May your golden feet flourish, may your golden grace flourish. Venkata, may your golden flame flourish. So here ends this video. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thank you my dear friend. Namaskar, namaste my dear friend.